This is the Codcast. All things Whitby Town FC.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Codcast. I'm Andrew Snaith and I'm very pleased to say I'm joined by Paul Connolly and Liam Ryder from the Whitby Town media team. Of course, no football to speak of on the pitch at the moment, but we do know when we'll be back, Paul, with our first friendly of the summer.
Yeah, we'll be back from the first weekend of July, I think the 4th of July. That one, a trip to not too far away, Mask United, away from home, of course, managed by Whitby Town legend, the first Whitby Town captain to lift the Northern League, Paul Burton, and obviously Cappy Warburton as well from that team in his management team. So yeah, it'd be a nice little reunion of sorts with Burton and Cappy, I'm sure, and yeah, it'll be a decent first test for the Whitby Town team.
Indeed, and speaking of Whitby Town legends, we had some sad news about one of our stars of the 1980s FA Cup sides, Paul.
Yeah, very sad news after hearing the passing of David Coleby, of course the goalkeeper in those great Tony Lee sides that got to the FA Cup first and second round over a couple of years. Obviously a legend as well in North East football with Williamson Thorny, who was at Scarborough for a while as well. So well travelled, well liked person and goalkeeper in Dave Coleby, which is a real shame. You know, he sort of you look at his career sort of story, the way his career went, and it sums up, you know, everything that we've sort of heard and been told about those Tony Lee sides and what you sort of gather from the research that we've done over the years on them. That, you know, there was a great determination in those sides, and they feared nobody and feared nothing. And you know, David Colby's career sort of sums that up nicely. He had struggles with injury. He had a 3-year period where he didn't even play at one point because of injury, but he managed to battle back, and he managed to sort of make the number 1 jersey his own at Whitby Town. So, you know, if that doesn't sort of sum up that determination of that great side, then I don't really know what does.
Indeed, and Paul caught up with one of David's teammates from the 1980s, Trevor Smith, earlier this week.
So I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Trevor Smith, Whitby Town legend, and unfortunately chatting in sad circumstances, really, Trevor. Obviously the passing of David Coleby. I mean, first of all, just what are some of your memories of David?
Well, David, yeah. I mean, David. I think Dave Coleby. You know, he was. I don't think he got the credit he sort of deserved. You know, I think he was one of those keepers who just sort of got on with it, and you know, he wasn't. You know, he wasn't flashing anyway. He wasn't. You know, he you know, I think he was better than probably, you know, a lot of people, you know, thought. I think he just got on with his job quietly. And he was great, David. I really liked David. He was a good kid, and he's a good lad in the dressing room as well.
Yeah, particularly well loved around the football club, and I guess
he was fun to be with. You know what I mean? And but he always fancied himself out playing out, you know, not in goal. You know what I mean? I think probably most keepers think that as well. But I think, but yeah, he was sound. He was a really good keeper, and he was in a good team mind. I mean, you know, Dave was a good lad. I liked David, and I was shocked when you know, I got the news. You know.
Yeah, definitely very sad news, and obviously just reflecting. Sorry, go on.
It is though, mate. Yeah, I mean, it's a shocker, really, because I didn't. Obviously, I haven't seen him for you know, a while, like, but yeah, awful.
And obviously in terms of his character, I guess that when you look at his career as a whole, he summed up the sort of mentality of Tony Lee's side in the 80s, didn't he? Because he had, you know, a lot of years out injured. I think he had 3 years out before he returned to Whitby Town. So that sort of resilience and that determination really sort of summed up the Whitby team at the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he was even struggling with his knees at the time. Yeah, so. But I mean, David was a, you know, integral sort of part of the team, and he was he was very dependable, week in, week out. He was an 8 out of 10. You know what I mean? And the kid, he was no problem, more than held his own really in that team at that moment. I mean, yeah, I think we had a good, really. I mean, I look back and I think that the team we had was just, it was certainly the best in the northeast, but in non-league, I would have said it. We were in one of the best in the country non-league. I'm talking like the conference and the national league. I mean, we were pretty special, I think. And it would be interesting to see how it would compare. If you could only compare the team, the players, to what they are. And it's always like puzzled me because there's that many different divisions now. Whereas I think when we were in Northern League, it was like we were feeder. I think we were actually feeder to the National League, but at that point there was no promotion out of the Northern League. You know what I mean? So yeah. But who knows, eh? Who knows?
Indeed, yeah. I mean, a
But
great.
we had some great players, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. A great Whitby side, and obviously you mentioned there about how good that side was, and I guess obviously the memories that you share with the likes of Dave Coleby, those games against Halifax and Wigan, that people can go back and watch nowadays, and you can sort of see how sort of close those games were. There was points where you wouldn't be able to tell which team was which in terms of the
No,
league stature.
no. I mean, we actually beat Halifax, didn't we? But yeah, we were 2-0 down as well that day, and yeah, I mean, to come back, but we had Rolls Royce up front. We had Phil Lineker. I mean, he was unplayable on his day, and Silsey and Derek Hampton and guys like that. Just yeah, So we went away to a football league team, and beat them on their own patch really that day, and we give them 2-goal start as well. So I mean, it's I don't think when you're 2-0 up in front, you're a football league of pros, full-time pros, and you're 2-0 up at home. I mean, you could have played anybody really, and you probably people would have put money on you, seen through that 90 minutes. Are you with me? But we just had a never say die sort of attitude, and obviously with Phil Lineker up front at the time, it was great. We just knocked the ball up to him, and he did the rest. He was good. But he was well supported by other really good players as well. At the time. But then we went on to played in the FA Trophy, which was something we probably should have won. Really, it was just Anyway, when we were 2-2 at Dagenham. We drew away 2-2 at Dagenham, brought them back to the Turnbull, but we were decimated with injuries. Absolutely, we were down to the bare bones, and it was just too much for us on the night. And if we'd have had everybody fit, I think we probably would have gone through. And then the semi-final 2-leg, I think we were playing Bath. I think it was Bath or something like that, and there's no way we would have lost that over 2 legs. You know what I mean? So. But yeah, we would never know. Nobody will never know that one.
No, indeed. But great memories as well, Trevor, and obviously great to remember. Obviously not in the circumstances, but obviously nice to remember those teammates as well that are no longer with us at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I was there early doors before Tony came. I was 17 when I made my debut, I think, for Whitby, and Ian Gibson. I don't remember him. Ian Gibson used to play for Middlesbrough, and he was a Coventry City, and he was also a full Scottish international. And Ian Gibson, he was player manager at Whitby, and he was just like, the ball was on a string. Honestly, it was amazing to play with him. Really, play alongside him. It was great. but that was like before Tony came along. I think Tony was the next manager, I think, on that one. And but Tony Lee was just great as well. His character he was. His record. If he'd have been in the south of England, Tony Lee would have, he would have had his pick of clubs. You know what I mean? The problem is with the northeast, there's very little. It's hard to sort of to get the recognition, I suppose. You know what I mean? So, but that's one of the I suppose a little drawback of being in the northeast. We're out a little bit out on a limb, But yeah, overall, great memories, mate.
This is the Codcast.
That's Trevor Smith speaking to Paul on the sad news of the loss of David Coleby, and we pass on our warmest regards and sympathies to all David's family and friends. And we'll move on now, and we have some interesting news regarding marketing for the club. Liam, you've been speaking to Daniel Porter. Before we hear from Daniel, just explain what the link up with Daniel's company is all about.
Yeah, so basically the whole intention of this sponsorship deal is it's meant to work for both the club, obviously from the sponsorship side of things, Seaweed Marketing Solutions, Dan's company, and also anyone that involved with the club, whether the existing sponsors that renew or new ones that come on board. But essentially, it's kind of meant to work for all parties essentially. So Seaweed's quite a new company itself at the moment, really, just sort of trying to, obviously help their trade, help their own business grow, but essentially giving something in return to the sponsors that help out Whitby Town. So it's kind of an incentive in a way to come on board and sponsor the club, because, I've sort of been involved in it a bit myself, sort of doing a bit of research around what some of our sponsors have, and naturally some won't take up the option. They have got a very established social media platforms going on, established websites and things like that. But yeah, it's basically the options there that it will go out to anyone it renews when they receive their invoice in June. Basically saying that, as you may have seen advertised, you've got a chance to have a discounted social media management. Seaweed, to be fair, are very reasonably priced as it is. So basically just be a reduced price on top of that. And you're being very good hands, and hopefully it can work to promote their business as well. But yeah, from our point of view, obviously coming in as a media sponsor, we're going to be closely aligned with them, representing Seaweed Marketing across the Northern Premier League next season. Ultimately, the logo, when we get the new gear, will be featured on the hoodies that media team members will wear. There's a big sign at the back of the main stand as well. So plenty of presence out there, and I think really just good to have already, more sponsorship packages being taken up, because that's what we've lacked in previous years.
Indeed. Let's hear from Daniel Porter now.
Hi, it's Dan here from Seaweed Marketing. Delighted to be helping Whitby Town Football Club. We had a discussion with the club to see how we could best support them, and one area it was identified was cash flow. I know that last season there was a lot of games cancelled, which massively affects the cash flow for the club. So we came up with a plan that we would support the sponsors that are supporting the club. We would offer them a reduction on our services, and we would also offer a donation to the club on a monthly basis, based on the work that we get out of our support of the club, and that would help with cash flow. So our services are marketing, general marketing, social media marketing. We had a look at some of the sponsors of the club, and we noticed that it was maybe an area where they could do with a little bit of support. We can do social media, like I say, websites, all areas of marketing to help businesses to get the name out there about what they do. Support the businesses and support the football team as we go. It feels like a win-win for everyone, but we're really excited to be able to support, obviously, our local team in the town where we live and work. Yeah, I'd really like to thank Whitby Town Football Club for allowing us to do this, and all the sponsors as well.
This is the Codcast.
That's Daniel Porter, who was speaking to Liam earlier on. Lots going on with seaweed marketing, and we'll be able to find out more about that as the weeks go on. Of course, thoughts turn to the makeup of the Whitby Town side for the coming campaign. Of course, a number of players have left the club. Obviously, Shane Bland, he passed Paul Pittman's record. He passed 500 appearances. In terms of, wanting a new challenge, he's been on and off at the Turnbull for over a decade now. I think obviously people are sad to see him go. He's very, very popular. But I think there's a lot of understanding amongst fans that this might have been the time where he chose to try something different. I think there's a lot of understanding for that. Lewis Hawkins, I'd be interested to know what people think about that. Because there was that controversy at Morpeth. There was the negative reaction from him throwing the armband down, things like that. So I don't know if everybody's forgiven him for that. And again, though, I didn't realise quite myself how long he'd been there. 6 years. Since the COVID times, really, that he'd been at the club. So that's very interesting. Obviously, we know Leighton Watts is going as well. As you say, one or two others might be going as well. There's been offers made to others. There were offers made to those players. They weren't just released. They've chosen not to renew contracts. Let's hear from Lee Bullock, who spoke to Paul earlier.
So, Bully, the season finished and a very busy summer started, we assume. Just first of all, obviously, we've seen a couple of outgoings so far. Obviously, Shane Bland being probably the prominent one of those. It's straight to business pretty much straight away.
Yeah, obviously, the season we had was a major disappointment. We survived by the absolute skin of our teeth. So that told us the squad needed to be changed. Like, if I'd have kept that same squad, people would be, hang on, you've been saying for the last few weeks, not good enough, we need help. We've re-signed them all. The same thing's going to happen again. So initially there was 5 or 6 lads released, and we thanked them for their effort and what they'd helped them survive in the end. Some of them needed to go, some of them needed freshening up. Some of them, through no fault of their own, hadn't featured enough because of injury. And then we offered contracts to certain players that obviously there'll probably be a couple more in the next few days, because they've been offered contracts on what we believe the performances deserved over the last 2 year, 6 weeks, whatever. We can't keep rewarding and paying more when we're not getting the results on the pitch. So that's the harsh reality of football. Like I say, if we'd re-signed everyone, people would be like, what on earth are we doing? So some of the lads will hopefully stay. Some have been offered contracts that we feel are decent and good enough to start again and build with us and let us get them fit and strong and the correct attitude. And then obviously we have got a massive rebuild of probably 10, 12 players are going to have to come in. We know that and we accept that, and every day at the minute is just constantly speaking to players, watching players. I was up at St James's Park last night watching the Northumberland Cup final. It's just a constant battle with a lot of other teams in the area, and at the moment players you speak to them and, oh yeah, I'm interested, but I've got a lot of options. So you've got that at the minute, the waiting game, and eventually people start going to where they need to be. So supporters, I know it looks horrendously alarming at the minute, but trust us, there's a hell of a lot of work going on in the background. We're speaking to a lot of players, and they will start falling into line. We don't start training again until back end of June. The season doesn't start till August the 8th. There's a long time in between, but trust me, there's a lot of work going on.
Yeah, certainly. You mentioned there, obviously, a number of those departures. But yeah, I mean, I guess looking at it, Bully, is the message really is just a little bit of patience if we can, and let those things play out as they are at the moment.
Yeah, not patience, because obviously supporters, it's their club. Of course, you're concerned when you at this moment in time we couldn't put a five-a-side team together. But I would say to them supporters, have you really enjoyed what you watched over the last, especially last season? We kept saying we weren't good enough at home. What we're trying to do now is we're trying to get a new squad in, a new team, and that will be better. And that's the challenge for myself and Denny and Neil. And that's what we're working really hard at the minute to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, you mentioned there, obviously, Neil Ince as part of that. Obviously, yeah, that'll be the one of the big areas that people will have that concern over is that goalkeeping area, Bully.
Yeah, 100%. It's a big area. We've spoke to quite a few goalkeepers. We've got a couple of options that are experienced, know the level, and been there and done it. A couple of youngsters who have been released by academy teams and played a bit of lower level men's football. They're the next Shane Bland coming through. And then we've also got the option of, do we go to a pro club and see if we can get a season long loan? So there's a lot of conversations. It's a key area. We can't just go out and say, bang, we'll have you, because it's a position you've got to get right. Do we go with the experienced head who knows what it's about, the unknown from an academy, or the younger lads trying to make the way like Shane did all them years ago? Shane came in, made a lot of mistakes at the start, but quickly learned and established himself, like you said, was one of the best goalkeepers at the level. So Shane was going to leave one day, and he's chose this season to go on the back of a save that probably kept the club in the league. So we thank him for that. But like you say, Shane was offered an excellent contract. He's opted to go and try his luck elsewhere after, again, 2 rough years that he hasn't really enjoyed. And we shook hands and we wish him well, and he'll pop up somewhere, I'm pretty sure, and he'll go and have another couple of decent years as long as he keeps himself fit.
Oh, good stuff. So in terms of that, recruitment, then, Bolly, how are you and Denny sort of approaching it in terms of your focuses and how you want to build the squad?
We said before, we want lads who want to be here for the right reasons. They want to be here because they want to push themselves at this level of football. That they want to prove they can play it. And we do sell it a little bit as, we know Whitby Town's a great platform for these younger lads. You come in, you have a season or two, you do very well, and there's, like, whether we like it or not, there's bigger, I'm going to have to say bigger, better clubs out there, because that's how football works. You move up the levels, and that's one way we're selling it. 2 is it's a very good club to play for, one of the better grounds, a pitch that's improving all the time, and a club where we're going to try and do things right. So we just want the right mentality, the right attitude, and I want lads to be here for the right reason. Yes, they get paid. Yes, they have to be paid for the time and the effort, but that's not the main reason they're here. And that's not saying lads that have left or lads that have been in the past have done that, but the wages have just got a little bit too much here for what we've been getting back.
Absolutely, and mentioned there Denny Ingram, of course, he takes up the assistant manager's role. I mean, in terms of that recruitment as well, obviously, you know, you're very sort of Teesside based, Teesside focused, Bully, but Denny obviously brings that experience from being in management teams and working over the sort of the East Coast way and out that East Yorkshire way as well. So I mean, that obviously balances out things as well to look at different areas.
Yeah, that was like a major reason when we approached him back end of last season. One, he's very good at what he does. His standards and professionalism are are what the football club needs, because he won't accept second best, and he'll drive everything to be done properly. But two, like you say, he knows that East Riding side. He knows a lot of people. He knows a lot of players. He knows a lot of managers around there. So hopefully you'll see players coming from that area and players coming from the northeast, and we mix them together, and we hopefully get a better season.
No, absolutely, and looking ahead to that one then as well. How's the pre-season schedule shaping up as well, Bully? I've seen potentially that game against Mask to kick things off.
Yeah, we were looking to have a couple of home games early, but I think the club have been let down by a contractor who was coming to work on the pitch. So the first few weeks going to be away games. So Mask have asked us, and like I say, I think Mask will be a nice game to get going. There'll be a couple of other away games, and then probably the first home game will be in around 17th, 18th of July. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we've got a few in the pipeline. I need to run them by the secretary first, and then we'll be announcing not too soon. But there won't be a humongous pre-season fixture list, but there'll be enough games there to challenge us and test us.
The Codcast, all things Whitby Town FC.
That's Lee Bullock, Whitby Town manager, of course. And just finally, I'm going to draw your attention to our grandstand appeal. It's, of course, the centenary year, and there is a chance for supporters to have their names on the seating, linked to each seat on the main stand to raise some money, which I'm sure will help to use that phrase again. We've missed it, haven't we? Boost the budget, Liam.
Yeah, well, that's it. We've got these sort of different ideas. The sponsored seat was actually given to us by a supporter, Graham Pryor. I'll give him a shout out if he's listening. He got in touch, and I thought actually that's a really good idea. I know we've got the seats that were sponsored from way back when the main stand was built. They're being included in this, but we've still got sort of 300 plus seats to sell to supporters, members of the public. We're seeing some of the seats coming through. It's some names you recognise, some that you don't. Typically the ones that you don't have been put in memory of certain individuals. Names of the past. I saw one the other day for Dave Griffiths, of course, long-serving club official. So that, he's going to have a seat in memory of him coming through. There's plenty of chance to be able to get involved. And ultimately, yes, it is a fundraiser for the club, but, it's also tiny with a centenary. This is a year that we've got to really sort of go big in terms of making a big thing of it, because you see how perilous non-league is now. A lot of teams actually don't get to 100 years. So for us to do that, it's a massive achievement. But yeah, in terms of the fundraising side of things, it's all going to play its part. We're just sort of awaiting confirmation on plans for the Boost the Budget campaign in particular next season. But that will be sorted out and taken care of probably once we've got some actual players in our designated budget first. Then it may become a bit more apparent what the plans are with that one. But yeah, the sponsor of the seat, it's a great way to get involved with the club and support whether you come to games or not. And if you have got a specific seat that you like to use in a match day, we'll do our best to accommodate that one for you. And all being well, we'll have all the labels in place for the start of pre-season, or at least for the seats that have been booked. And I guess really we can keep it going for as long as we need to, if try and get the stand full the best we can. But yeah, plenty of ways to get involved. And I think as well, as we're on fundraising or thinking ahead to next season, season tickets are now on sale as well, which I get that people may want to hand fight to actually got a team, but rest assured we'll have something together for that. And and I've seen a few comments on there saying price increase again, which we get, but in a way they're probably a bit too cheap last season. So that they've gone up to, I think, 220 for adults. And let me just get the full prices up in front of me. Sorry, yeah, 220 for adults. You've got 155 for concessions, 70 for under 18s, and just £25 for under 16s. So, if you are a regular, even if you don't get to every game, say the Tuesday night games, you're still better off buying one. You're actually saving yourself some money there. So yeah, that's a great way to get involved as well, and just show your support for the club moving forward, because we've got a number of changes going on. I think they're starting to sort of take a bit more shape now. A couple of roles that we're still trying to fill, but it'd be nice to sort of really, regenerate the club. Perhaps now we've hit that centenary, sort of just fresh ideas, fresh blood on and off the pitch, and hopefully that can all prove positive moving forwards. But yeah, plenty going on. For all the latest, just head to the website whitbytownfc.com, because there's quite a lot being going on in the last week or so.
Absolutely, yes. There's no football on the field, but there is plenty going on behind the scenes. We will bring it to you here on the Codcast throughout the summer. Thank you to Paul Connolly and Liam Ryder, and our other guests as well this week, to Trevor Smith, to Lee Bullock, and also to Dan Porter, part of our new marketing partners with Whitby Town. Thank you to you for listening. We'll be back next week with more from Whitby Town FC. Bye for now.